They say you never truly know someone until they show you who they really are. I learned that lesson on a Tuesday afternoon when a stranger's text message shattered everything I believed about my marriage. My husband had been living a double life: 2 wives, 2 homes, one devastating secret. And when I finally discovered the truth, I realized the real question wasn't whether I could forgive him, it was whether I could survive what came next. I thought I knew my husband. After 5 years of marriage, I believed I could read him like a book I'd memorized by heart. The way he hummed old jazz songs in the shower, how he always kissed my forehead before leaving for work, the small scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood fall he'd told me about on our second date. I knew Daniel Carter. Or at least, I thought I did. My name is Emma Carter, and this is the story of how my perfect marriage became my greatest betrayal. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in late September, the kind of day where the sunlight falls golden through the windows and makes you believe the world is gentle. I was working from home, answering emails for the marketing firm I'd built from scratch, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Is this Emma Carter? Daniel's wife? My fingers paused over the keyboard. Something cold settled in my chest, though I couldn't say why. I stared at those words, at the question mark that felt more like an accusation. Yes. Who is this? The reply came immediately. We need to talk. It's about your husband. Can you meet me at Riverside Cafe in an hour? I should have ignored it. I should have called Daniel and asked him what was going on. But curiosity, or maybe it was fear, made me grab my keys and drive to that cafe without telling anyone where I was going. The Riverside Cafe sat on the edge of town, overlooking the water where sailboats drifted like white birds. I'd never been there before. It felt too far from our usual places, too unfamiliar. I walked inside, my heart beating harder than it should. The cafe smelled like coffee and cinnamon, and soft music played from invisible speakers. I scanned the room, looking for... what? I didn't even know who I was supposed to meet. Then I saw her. She sat alone at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she needed its warmth to survive. She was younger than me, maybe 28 to my 32, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and tired eyes that had seen too much. But it wasn't her face that made my blood run cold. It was the little girl sitting beside her. She couldn't have been more than 4 years old, with curly brown hair and round cheeks. She was coloring in a book, her tongue sticking out in concentration, completely unaware of the bomb her presence was about to drop into my life. The woman looked up and met my eyes. She knew who I was. Somehow, she just knew. I walked over on legs that felt like they might give out. Are you the one who texted me? She nodded slowly. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I didn't know how else to do this. I sat down across from her, my hands shaking. Do what? Who are you? She took a breath that seemed to hurt. My name is Rachel. Rachel Morrison. She paused, and her next words came out like shattered glass. Daniel is... he's my husband too. The world tilted. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. What are you talking about? Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. We've been married for 6 years. We have a daughter. She glanced at the little girl, who was still coloring, oblivious. Her name is Lily. No. The word came out sharp, defensive. That's impossible. Daniel and I got married 5 years ago. We've been together for 6. He's with me every night. He travels for work, doesn't he? Rachel interrupted gently. He's gone 2 to 3 weeks every month? My mouth went dry. Yes. Daniel worked for a consulting firm. He traveled constantly. Boston 1 week, Chicago the next, sometimes Seattle or Austin. He was gone more than half of every month. It was part of his job, part of our life, part of the sacrifice we made so he could provide for us. He's not traveling, Rachel said, her voice breaking. He's with me, in Millbrook. It's only 2 hours from here. I couldn't breathe. The cafe seemed to spin around me, the golden sunlight suddenly too bright, too cruel. You're lying, I whispered. But even as I said it, I knew she wasn't. Rachel pulled out her phone with trembling hands and slid it across the table. On the screen was a photo of Daniel, my Daniel, standing in a kitchen I didn't recognize, wearing an apron I'd never seen, flipping pancakes while the little girl laughed beside him. The date stamp read 3 days ago. 3 days ago, he'd told me he was in Denver for a conference. My vision blurred. I scrolled through more photos. Daniel at a park, pushing Lily on a swing. Daniel asleep on a couch with Lily curled against his chest. Daniel cutting a birthday cake that said, "Happy 6th anniversary." Anniversary. 6 years. One more year than he'd been married to me. "I found out about you 2 months ago," Rachel said quietly. "I hired a private investigator because Daniel had been acting strange, distant. I thought maybe he was having an affair." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out, I was the affair." "No," I said again, but the word had no strength left. "We're married. Legally married. I have the certificate." "So do I," Rachel said quietly. Then she paused, her brow furrowing. "Or at least, I thought I did." The private investigator said something about the documents possibly being fraudulent. I didn't want to believe it. The impossibility of it crashed over me. How could he be married to both of us? One of those marriages had to be fake. But which one? And how could he live 2 completely separate lives without either of us knowing? "I don't understand," I whispered. "How is this even possible?" Rachel wiped her eyes. "I've been trying to figure that out, I think. I think he used different names, different documents. I don't know all the details yet. But Emma, I've seen the bank accounts, the credit cards. He's been funding 2 households, 2 lives, for years." I felt sick, physically sick. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Why now?" Rachel's face hardened with a pain I recognized, because I was feeling it too. "Because I'm done being lied to. And because—" She hesitated. "Because I think there's more to this story than just a man who wanted 2 wives." "What do you mean?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping even lower. 3 weeks ago, 2 men came to our house looking for Daniel. They were dangerous. I could tell. They said he owed them money. A lot of money. They said if he didn't pay, people would get hurt." Her eyes locked onto mine. "They asked if Daniel had a wife. I said yes. But then one of them said, 'Which one?'" My blood turned to ice. "They knew," Rachel continued. "They knew about both of us. And when I tried to ask Daniel about it, he said he'd handle it. He said I didn't need to worry. But Emma, I am worried. Because whatever he's involved in, whatever he's done, we're both caught in it now." I couldn't speak, couldn't think. My entire reality had shattered in the space of 20 minutes. "I don't know what to do," Rachel admitted, and for the first time, I saw the fear beneath her anger. "I have a daughter. I need to protect her. But I also need to know the truth." And I thought, maybe together, we could find it. I stared at this woman, this stranger who shared my husband, my life, my nightmare. Part of me wanted to run, to pretend this conversation never happened, to go home and confront Daniel and demand explanations. But another part of me, the part that had always been stronger than I wanted to admit, knew that Rachel was right. If we wanted the truth, we'd have to find it ourselves. "Where is he now?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Rachel checked her phone. "He told me he'd be in Portland this week. For work. He told me he's in Atlanta." Our eyes met. And in that moment, we both understood. Daniel wasn't in Portland or Atlanta. He was somewhere else entirely, living a third life we didn't even know about yet. "We need to find him," I said. Rachel nodded. "And when we do, he's going to tell us everything." I looked at Lily, still coloring peacefully, unaware that her whole world was about to change, just like mine had. I thought I knew my husband. But the man I'd loved for 6 years, the man I'd built a life with, the man I'd trusted with my heart, he was a stranger. And I was about to discover just how much of a stranger he really was. Rachel and I sat in that cafe for another hour, piecing together the fragments of our broken lives like detectives trying to solve a crime we were both victims of. She showed me more photos, more evidence. Bank statements she'd found hidden in Daniel's home office, our home office. I had to remind myself, because apparently nothing was truly ours anymore. There were transactions I didn't recognize, payments to people in places I'd never heard of, wire transfers that made my stomach turn. "He's been moving money around for at least 3 years," Rachel explained, her finger tracing a line of numbers on her phone screen. "Large amounts. 50,000 here, 30,000 there. And these payments," she pointed to a recurring charge, "these go to someone named Marcus Webb. Every month, like clockwork. $20,000. Who is Marcus Webb?" I asked. "I don't know. But I think he's connected to those men who came to the house." I felt the weight of everything pressing down on me. "We need to confront Daniel. Together." Rachel nodded, but there was hesitation in her eyes. "What if he runs? What if we scare him off and we never get answers?" She was right. We needed to be smart about this. Strategic. "Does he know you found out about me?" I asked. "No. I haven't told him anything. I've been pretending everything is normal." "Same here," I said. "He has no idea I know about you." An idea began to form in my mind. Dangerous, maybe, but necessary. "When is he supposed to come home to you next?" Rachel checked her phone. "Friday night, 3 days from now. He's supposed to come home to me Thursday night." I leaned forward. "What if we both confronted him? At the same time?" Rachel's eyes widened. "You mean show up together?" "Yes. He can't lie to both of us if we're both standing in front of him. He can't run if we corner him." For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something shift in Rachel's expression. Not hope, exactly, but determination. The kind of strength that comes from finally having a plan. "Okay," she said. "Let's do it." We exchanged phone numbers, made a plan. Agreed to meet Thursday night at my house, the house Daniel and I had bought together 3 years ago. The house where I'd imagined us growing old, raising children, building a future. All of it had been a lie. When I finally left the cafe, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that felt obscenely beautiful. How could the world look so lovely when mine was falling apart? I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with questions I couldn't answer. How long had he been planning this? Had he ever really loved me? Or was I just part of some elaborate con? When I pulled into the driveway, I sat in the car for a long moment, staring at the house. Our house. Except it wasn't really ours. Nothing was. I walked inside, and everything looked exactly as I'd left it. The photos on the wall, Daniel and me on our wedding day, smiling like we had the whole world figured out. The coffee mug he'd used that morning, still sitting in the sink, his jacket hanging by the door. I picked up the wedding photo and stared at his face. He looked so happy, so genuine. Had it all been an act? My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Hey babe, just finished my meeting. Miss you. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Love you." I stared at those words. Love you. 2 words I'd believed for 6 years. 2 words that now felt like poison. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I did, I might say something that would give me away. And I needed him to come home. I needed him to face what he'd done. The next 2 days were the longest of my life. I went through the motions. Worked, ate, slept, though sleep was nearly impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Rachel's face, Lily's innocent smile, the photos of Daniel living a completely different life. I searched through everything. His email, his computer, his drawers, looking for something, anything that would explain why, and that's when I found it. Hidden in the back of his closet, behind a stack of old shoes, was a lockbox. Small, metal, secured with a combination lock I didn't know. My hands shook as I stared at it. What was inside? More secrets? More lies? I tried every combination I could think of. Our anniversary, his birthday, my birthday. Nothing worked. Frustrated, I sat back, the box in my lap. And then, almost on instinct, I tried one more number. Their anniversary. Rachel and Daniel's anniversary, 6 years ago, around the time this all began. The lock clicked open. Inside, I found documents. Papers that made my blood run cold. A birth certificate for Lily Morrison. Medical records. And underneath all of that, a folder labeled Web Investigation. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were newspaper clippings. Articles about a man named Marcus Webb, a loan shark with ties to organized crime. There were photos of him, intimidating and cold-eyed. And there were notes in Daniel's handwriting. Initial loan, $200. Interest compounding monthly. Current debt, $500,000. My heart stopped. $500,000. Daniel owed this man $500,000. But why? What had he needed that kind of money for? I kept reading. More notes. More fragments. Rachel's medical bills, $150,000. Surgery complications. No insurance coverage. Had no choice. The world tilted again. But this time in a different direction. Rachel. Medical bills. I remembered what she'd said at the cafe. That she and Daniel had been married for 6 years. That meant 6 years ago, something had happened. Something that required a massive amount of money. I grabbed my phone and called Rachel. She answered on the second ring. Emma? What's wrong? Rachel. 6 years ago, did something happen? Medically? There was a long pause. How did you... Just tell me. Please. Her voice came out small, pained. I had cancer. Ovarian cancer. Stage 3. I was 22. Daniel and I had just gotten married. We didn't have good insurance. The treatments. They were experimental. Expensive. We couldn't afford it. My chest tightened. What happened? Daniel found a way. He said he'd take care of it. He paid for everything. The surgery, the chemotherapy, the medications. All of it. Her voice cracked. He saved my life, Emma. I closed my eyes, feeling the pieces start to come together in a way that made everything more complicated. More painful. He borrowed money, I said quietly. From a very dangerous man. What? I found documents. He took out a loan for $200,000 from a loan shark named Marcus Webb. With interest, he now owes over $500,000. Rachel's breath caught. Oh my God. That's why he's been living 2 lives, Rachel. He needed 2 incomes, 2 households. He's been trying to pay off a debt that's been growing faster than he can keep up with. But why didn't he just tell me? Rachel's voice broke. Why didn't he ask for help? I don't know. Maybe he thought he could handle it. Maybe he was trying to protect you. By lying? By marrying someone else? I didn't have an answer for that. Because even if his intentions had started in the right place, what he'd done was still unforgivable. There's more, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. Those men who came to your house, they work for Webb. The debt is due, Rachel, and if Daniel doesn't pay... I didn't need to finish the sentence. We both knew what happened to people who didn't pay men like Marcus Webb. What do we do? Rachel whispered. We stick to the plan. Thursday night, we confront him, and he tells us everything. And then what? I looked around the house that suddenly felt like a museum of lies. I don't know. But whatever happens, we face it together. Thursday night came too quickly and not quickly enough. I spent the day cleaning the house, an absurd thing to do given the circumstances, but I needed to keep my hands busy. I needed to feel some sense of control. At 6 o'clock, Rachel texted me. I'm on my way. Lily is with my mom. I told Daniel I'd be visiting her tonight. He's supposed to be here by 7. I'll leave the front door unlocked. I paced the living room, my heart hammering. Every minute felt like an hour. Every sound outside made me jump. And then, at 6:55, I heard his car pull into the driveway. Daniel was home. I positioned myself in the kitchen, trying to look casual, even though my entire body was vibrating with tension. The door opened. Emma? I'm home. His voice. The same voice that had whispered, I love you 1,000 times. The same voice that had promised forever. In the kitchen, I called out, surprised by how steady I sounded. He walked in, a smile on his face. And for just a moment, one brief, painful moment, I saw the man I'd fallen in love with. Tired from travel, happy to be home. Completely unaware that his world was about to implode. God, I missed you, he said, moving toward me for a kiss. I stepped back. We need to talk. His smile faltered. What's wrong? Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Daniel frowned. Are you expecting someone? Yes, I said quietly. I am. I walked past him and opened the door. Rachel stood there, her eyes meeting mine first, then shifting to Daniel. The color drained from his face. Hello, Daniel, Rachel said, her voice trembling but firm. He looked between us, his mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find words. Rachel, what are you? How did you— Sit down, I said. Not a request, a command. He sank into a chair, and for the first time since I'd known him, Daniel Carter looked small, defeated. Rachel and I stood side by side, two women who should have been enemies but had become something else entirely. Allies, survivors. Start talking, Rachel said. And don't you dare lie to us. Not anymore. Daniel's hands shook. He looked at both of us, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes. Shame. Deep, soul-crushing shame. I never wanted this, he whispered. I never wanted to hurt either of you. But you did, I said. So tell us why. Tell us everything. And finally, after years of lies, Daniel began to tell the truth. He told us about Rachel's diagnosis, about the fear, about watching the woman he loved slipping away and feeling powerless, about the experimental treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, about going to every bank, every lender, and being turned away. Marcus Webb was my last option, Daniel said, his voice raw. He said he could get me the money. I didn't care about the terms. I just wanted to save you, Rachel. I would have done anything. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't speak. The treatment worked, Daniel continued. You went into remission. But the debt, it kept growing. 20% interest, compounded monthly. I thought I could pay it off. I had a good job, but it wasn't enough. I was drowning. So you married me, I said, the words tasting bitter. Daniel looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was real. I met you 2 years after Rachel's diagnosis. I wasn't looking for anyone, but you were. You were everything. Smart, kind, beautiful. And I fell in love with you, Emma. I really did. But you were already married. I know. And I should have told you. But I was scared. Scared you'd leave. Scared I'd lose the only chance I had to dig myself out of this hole. Your income, combined with mine, meant I could finally start making real payments to Webb. He looked down at his hands. I forged documents, created a fake identity for one of the marriages. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was illegal. But I was desperate. So I was what? I asked, my voice breaking. A financial solution? No, Daniel said desperately. You were never just that. I loved you. I still love you. But yes, I needed the money. And I thought I could manage both lives. Keep both of you safe, pay off the debt, and eventually, somehow, make everything right. By lying to us every single day? Rachel's voice cut through like a knife. Daniel's shoulders sagged. I know there's no excuse. I know what I did was unforgivable. But those men who came to your house, Rachel, they weren't bluffing. Webb wants his money. All of it. By the end of this month. And if I don't pay— What? I demanded. What happens? Daniel looked up, and I saw real fear. He said he'd come after the people I love. He knows about both of you, and he knows about Lily. The room went silent. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. No. No. You don't get to use my daughter as an excuse for what you've done. I'm not making excuses, Daniel said. I'm telling you the truth. Finally, all of it. I've been trying to protect you both, but I've failed, and now we're all in danger. I felt something crack inside me. Because even though I was furious, even though I wanted to hate him, I could see it now. The impossible weight he'd been carrying, the desperate choices, the lies that had started with love and spiraled into catastrophe. But that didn't make it okay. How much do you still owe? I asked. $420,000. Rachel and I exchanged a look. I have savings, I said slowly. About 80,000. I have access to 100,000, Rachel added. From my father's inheritance. Daniel shook his head. No, I can't let you. You don't get to decide anymore, I interrupted. This isn't just your problem, Daniel. You made it ours the moment you married both of us. The moment you put us all in danger. Rachel nodded. We need to figure out how to get the rest. Fast. For the next 2 hours, we talked. Really talked. Not as a husband and his two wives, but as three people trying to solve an impossible problem. Daniel had assets. The house we were sitting in. His car. A small investment portfolio. Combined with our savings, we could get close. Maybe 350,000. I'll talk to Webb, Daniel said. See if he'll accept partial payment and a structured plan for the rest. Men like Webb don't negotiate, Rachel said darkly. Then I'll make him, Daniel replied. And for the first time, I heard steel in his voice. I'll figure it out. I'll fix this. We'll fix this, I corrected. Together. Rachel looked at me, surprised. I'm not saying I forgive you, I told Daniel, my voice firm. I don't know if I ever will. What you did, it broke something inside me. But I also know that if we don't deal with Webb, none of us have a future to even fight about. Rachel nodded slowly. Emma's right. We handle the debt first. Everything else, we figure out later. Daniel looked between us, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry. To both of you. For everything. I didn't respond. Because sorry wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was a start. Over the next 2 weeks, we worked together in a way I never could have imagined. Daniel sold the house, our house. Rachel sold her car. I liquidated my savings. We gathered every dollar we could find. And when we finally had enough, Daniel went to meet Marcus Webb. I insisted on going with him. So did Rachel. Webb's office was in a part of town I'd never been to. The kind of place where shadows felt heavier and every face looked suspicious. We sat across from him, a man with cold eyes and a smile that promised violence, and Daniel placed a cashier's check on the desk. 370,000, Daniel said. It's everything we have. Webb picked up the check, examined it, then looked at us. All three of us. You're short, he said simply. I know, but I'm asking you, begging you to accept this as payment in full. I'll sign whatever you want, give you collateral, anything. Daniel pulled out a folder. I've documented everything here. Property deeds, investment accounts, life insurance policies with both of them listed as beneficiaries. If anything happens to me, you'll get everything. Please, just let this be over. Webb studied the documents for a long moment. The silence in that office was suffocating. Webb leaned back in his chair. You married 2 women to pay me back. That takes balls, I'll give you that. He looked at Rachel and me. And you two, you're willing to bankrupt yourselves for a man who lied to you? We're doing it to protect ourselves, I said coldly. And to protect Lily. Something shifted in Webb's expression. Not kindness, exactly, but something close to understanding. I don't usually do this, he said slowly, tapping the documents. But these collateral agreements are solid. Life insurance, property, investments, it's all here. He leaned back. You've given me more security than most people who owe me money. And you actually came here, faced me, brought everything you had. He looked at Daniel. Most people run. You didn't. He picked up a pen and signed the bottom of the payment agreement. Your debt is cleared. The collateral agreements stay in place for 2 years. If you default on anything, I take everything. Understood? The relief that washed over us was almost painful. We left that office, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But that didn't solve everything. The three of us sat in Rachel's car afterward, exhausted and emotionally raw. "What now?" Rachel asked quietly. Daniel looked at both of us. "I don't expect either of you to stay with me. I know I don't deserve it, but I want you both to know everything I did, every lie I told. It started because I loved you, Rachel, and it continued because I loved you too, Emma. That doesn't make it right, but it's the truth." Rachel stared straight ahead. "I have a daughter to think about. She needs stability. She needs honesty. I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Daniel. But I also don't know if I can just walk away." "I can," I said, and both of them looked at me. Emma Daniel started. "Let me finish." I took a breath. "I can walk away, and part of me wants to. Part of me thinks I should pack my bags tonight and never look back." I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "What you did destroyed my trust. It destroyed everything I thought I knew about us, about love." The car was silent except for the sound of our breathing. "But another part of me," I looked at him, really looked at him. "Another part understands why you did what you did. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't erase the betrayal. It doesn't fix what's broken. But I understand." I wiped my eyes. "And I don't know if understanding is enough. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." "So what are you saying?" Rachel asked. "I'm saying I need time. We all need time. To figure out who we are after this. To decide what we want." Daniel nodded, tears in his eyes. "That's fair. That's more than fair." Rachel reached over and took my hand. "Whatever happens, Emma, thank you. For not walking away when you could have. For helping save my daughter." I squeezed her hand. "We're in this together now. For better or worse." And in that moment, I realized something. Love is complicated. It's messy. It asks impossible things of us. But sometimes, the price of love isn't just what we sacrifice. It's what we choose to forgive. I don't know what the future holds for Daniel, Rachel, and me. I don't know if our broken pieces can ever be put back together, or if we're meant to heal separately. But I do know this. Love isn't always the fairy tale we're promised. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it costs everything. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply choosing to understand. If my story touched your heart, if it made you think about the complexity of forgiveness and the weight of impossible choices, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to The Price of Love for more stories about the messy, beautiful, heartbreaking reality of loving another human being. And tell me in the comments, could you forgive a betrayal born from love? Or are some lies simply too big to overcome? Thank you for listening to my story.